Thank you for all the support you have been giving us. 4 episodes down, in the final episode of Present Her, powered by the Beauty Co., we have a rebel, a wife, a mother of three, an entrepreneur, and one of the leading women promoting women's sports in South Africa and worldwide, Kass Naidoo. Our first association with Kass was when we decided to start a magazine in which she contributed a story. Last year, when South Africa toured India, we were yet again glad to have her on board to look at those games as well as interview players. This time around, we are putting her on the hot seat as we talk to her about her life on and off the field, her inspiration, her daily challenges, and much more. So, welcome, Kass, to another episode of Present Her. I'm sure it's not the same. Lockdown has been treating everyone as it's been treating you. I'm sure you've been a lot busy with G Sports, the awards coming up, and a lot of planning down there.
Yes, it's so good to catch up. It has been busier. In fact, I think a lot of people I've spoken to have said, aren't we working longer hours in the lockdown than we did when everything was normal? So this is the new normal. It's a bit of everything and homeschooling 3 children. Yeah, so it's been pretty exciting during the lockdown.
Right. So how exactly, it's been now 80 days. How exactly have you spent 80 days?
Well, as I said, I've got 3 children on Google Classroom until lunchtime every day. And we run the G Sport initiative 24/7. So between the children, cooking, making sure G Sport runs, being a good wife, being a good person to myself, there's a whole lot of things you do. And then you get to bed at midnight and you think, oh, yeah, let me do that again. It's a little bit of Groundhog Day, but the kids are in such a good space at home. I've got a budding YouTuber. I've got them online gaming, and we're really trying to make the best of the situation. And what I'm finding is that we're finding things we're actually really good at while being stuck at home.
So before the lockdown started, you were there in Pakistan. You did an entire PSL. You were there in India last year. How was the experience? Those crowds, you don't see that kind of crowd in South Africa.
Well, I mean, particularly Surat, right? I mean, it's going to be an experience that will be etched in my mind forever, because we always talk about how cricket crazy India is, but I'd never experienced India being cricket crazy about women's cricket. And it really inspired me to come back home and to bring that energy and to say, well, we have a long way to go, but we can start somewhere. And it's really important that we attend games. And I mean, for me, the one thing that stands out is I was waiting for a game to start, knowing it potentially wasn't going to happen. And they still stayed just to wave at the girls goodbye. That was special. And then Pakistan was incredible because there hadn't been live cricket there for a long time. And there were packed houses. I mean, Pindi was incredible for me, just to see how they missed cricket, how they missed international cricket. And here were all these international stars who were falling in love with their country all over again. For me to have had my first major international assignment there, again, I will say it was a very rich experience. I worked with great commentators. We had a great women representation on the panel, which for me, I'm always looking at diversity and representation. So both very rich experiences, and I've set a high bar now. I can't just go ahead and do any series. I've got to really go to places that truly love their cricket.
So the time you were there in Pakistan presenting the PSL, the produced women were playing there in Australia for the T20 World Cup, and we had an extremely good T20 World Cup with 86,000 plus crowd there for the finals. What is your expectation that the next T20 World Cup is happening in South Africa?
Can we win one? I mean, come on. I mean, we've got such a good team as South Africa. It's time to win one. And I think all the players are pretty much saying the same thing, is that if not now, when? So the pressure again is going to be on. But I think more than that, the pressure is on the country to host a World Cup that really stands out. I think member countries are realizing that women's cricket is not a charity, that it is such a commercial boon for women in cricket, that you've got to put your best foot forward. So I think Cricket South Africa has a lot of work to do to really build hype ahead of the World Cup actually coming.
Coming to your childhood, you had a very different childhood. You come from an Indian origin family. Uh, so Kass' original name is Kasturi,
Yeah.
and that's how Kass has come. Tell us about how your childhood was. How did you get into cricket, into sports majorly?
I was brought up in a very traditional Indian home in South Africa, which sounds kind of ironic, but I mean, if anyone knows Durban, you know there's a large Indian community. But quite early on, I claimed my 100% South African tag with my parents as a teenager, which I don't think went down too well with the family, because everyone should be a very proud Indian young person who is proud of India and it sees that as the motherland. And I was extremely proud of my roots, but I seriously felt that I had a role to play in shaping the country, and I knew that from quite a young age. So we sang, we danced. I come from an Andhra background, so all that music played in my home. My mom cooked traditional food. So when I came to India last year, I told you, I felt extremely at home. I could move to India. I mean, in Bandra, I would live in Mumbai, you know that. But I was such a South African at the heart that it's from the age of around 13, 14, I started making my own way and finding my own voice.
So, what was the dream? Dream of becoming a commentator, dream of becoming the first female South African commentator, and you did achieve that.
So like initially that wasn't even the thing. I didn't know about anything in terms of the first or the second or anything. I had just for the first time ever heard a woman commentate. So many have heard the story. I heard Donna Simmons commentate. I was 14 years old, and her golden voice just changed my life, because I suddenly heard someone talk so passionately about a sport that I largely felt excluded from. And once I heard that, and I'd never heard a South African woman do it, I had this crazy dream that I could do it. I mean, come on, here's a woman, she's done it. Of course I could do it. But there was no kind of setup for me to really follow. And again, it was a wild dream. I'm so glad I followed it. Years later, I look back, and now I have a daughter, and she has this crazy dream of being a famous YouTuber. I'm not going to say no.
So we have seen that when you first made your mark in the commentary scene, you had those boycott, and you were bald at a time. What was that story like?
I mean, come on, who wasn't a rebel in their early years, right? At 14, I wanted to be the first woman commentator, and as the years were going by, and I was getting to the adolescent age, I just thought, well, I think I'm going to shave my head. What do you think? And my brother said, yeah, cool. So I went into my room and I shaved my head, and I came out, and my mom was like, well, what have you just done? And I said, well, I felt like shaving my head. And long story short, I graduated with my journalism qualification with a bald head, which my mom will never live down. And what has come about since then is that I've learned that when you shave your head, your hair actually grows back better, as you can see. So I did it twice. And the second time I did it, it was a few months before I made my debut on TV, which is why I had a boy cut, which became so popular that little girls started asking for their hair to be cut like that. And I felt really bad, because I didn't have I didn't have a story that said, well, this is a really inspiring cut. It's just that I had to do a lot to get my hair to that state to host a World Cup and make my debut in cricket.
So a rebel becoming the first female cricket commentator. What was the challenge back then?
It's quite interesting, because once you start hearing about these records of being the first, you start doing some introspection, start looking at who actually came before you. Because what I've realized is us, the ones who break through the glass ceilings, are actually not the first. There are people who really tried before us who never quite broke through the glass ceiling, but it's because of the efforts that they made that got us to where they are. So there's a woman in South Africa called Vicky Masuku, and she was the first Black African woman to actually start talking cricket in the country. But she never rose up to become the first woman cricket commentator. But I was able to do it because of the efforts that she had put in. So I'm quite mindful of the efforts that other women have put in, hoping to do it. And when I came through in 2003, everything was set up for women empowerment. But at the same time, the system was totally devoid of any kind of, there were no toilets for women at the stadiums. There was none of these things. Everything was men, everything was male. All your corporate gifts were ties, pinstripe shirts, nothing said women. So when I walked in, it helped being a rebel, really, because I'd always broken rules. So I walked in, I look at a rule. If it didn't work for me, I'd break the rule and change it. So one of the rules was I had to wear a navy blue blazer, which I absolutely refused to wear because I wanted to be a woman. And they said, well, wear the blazer or tear up your contract. I tore up my contract. I was called back to present my case. And my case was that I wanted to be a woman and I wanted to wear bright colored tops. So I went to a shop, like just a shop buying cheap t-shirts, and I put their logo on the t-shirt, and it started the brand of us wearing branded t-shirts on TV, and I didn't have to wear that. So those are the hard things that I did that kind of make cute stories, but really the setup was never good for women. It still is very challenging, I think. But for those of us who've risen above and have come through it, we kind of look like we're doing it easily. But I think if you ask Mel and Isha and Lisa and Natalie, we all have a story to tell about how it's still a little bit challenging.
So it's all been like being a rebel, breaking those walls, and then coming out of it. So it's been nearly 17 years since you made your first mark in the international scene. What are the changes and the acceptance that now female have got into that male dominated society? And what are more things which could possibly be done?
I think first things first, we can't hide behind all male panels anymore. So what you see is what people are going to pick up. So social media has made it very difficult for you to say one thing and do something else. I think what's also changed is we believe in ourselves a lot more. We don't feel like we're just making up the numbers, because initially you do fake the confidence until you feel the confidence. What has really changed, I think, is that broadcasters themselves have used us properly, have positioned us well in commentary. So at the Pakistan Super League, I would lead in commentary alongside Waqar Yunus, alongside some great stars and names in the game. And these players, these former players, sit there talking cricket because that's what they do. So it doesn't feel as though it's forced anymore. I think more can be done, in the sense that women experts, and now I see, are being questioned. I think that is the next barrier to break, where gender aside, if you have achieved what you have and you see yourself as an expert, then the industry will have to start living up to that expectation. So I think that's the next barrier we're reaching about women experts.
A lot of people say that marriage is kind of a roadblock for careers, especially for women. You've shown that success can come even after being married, having 3 kids, everything, and all the things you have achieved.
Let's put it this way, right? It takes 2 strong people to be married. It takes 2 very vulnerable people to be able to compromise. And I think there are roadblocks. You just got to be able to show your ID when you get there. And the ID is, on this day, I'm a mom of 3 and I'm not available for you. On this day, I'm at the cricket and I can't be at home. I'm so sorry, I'm missing your birthday. It's all these extremely intricate things that you've got to, on a day-to-day basis, keep going. You know, we've had our snags, and it is extremely challenging when I travel, particularly with the children. They cry. I'm sad, I'm depressed. I've got to lift myself, do as much yoga as possible to get myself in a space that I can do it. How have I done it? By the grace of God, really. I don't think it's something that many moms can firstly get the opportunity to live their absolute dream, which I'm getting, to give back with G Sport the way I'm allowed to, but also to be loved by my children and my husband, and to be approaching our wedding anniversary in September, and just being so happy that I'm living this dream. So everything is just kind of working out well because we're all just doing the best we can.
So managing a family, being a mother of three, being in a male-dominated sports industry, how much is it mentally tough? Like handling all the nuances that you have in your personal and professional lives. How much is mentally tough being important?
So I have this thing where I've said that you don't just break through the glass ceiling once, you break through the glass ceiling repeatedly. And if you don't have wounds on your head, you haven't broken through enough. So I think mentally is where the game is at. I think we all know we have the skills. I think we all know we can do what we can do. But every single day, you have to lift yourself to go be the best you can be. And there are days when you're probably at your lowest. So what is the best that you can give? So for me, it's all in the mental space. It's why I have very strict routines that I follow on test match cricket days, where I become a lunatic. As everyone says, don't talk to Kass in a 5-day test, because I have very strict routines. I eat properly, I exercise, I drink my water, and I almost become very spiritual about it because I take it so personally. So mentally, when you're strong, you can literally move mountains.
So 2003 was the first time you did an international game, and that was the World Cup. So how was the feeling like? Was it a no-brainer that you were going to do the World Cup, considering the World Cup was in South Africa? Or was it something, okay, I am getting a World Cup?
It was an absolute surprise, I think, to me and to the country. We had a presenter that everybody knew was the face of cricket, Gerald de Kock, one of our greatest cricket broadcasters. And he left the SABC, I think, late 2002, when I just shaved my head, actually, for the second time. And I got a call saying, we'd like you to come in for a training session. And so when I went in to do the training session, I was told that I was satisfactory. And I was kind of mediocre. I wasn't exactly what they were looking for, but I can go for further training. And it kind of looked like in the end, they really needed someone to host the World Cup. And as you know, I've always felt that I was ready to do it. But having not played the game, I think that was where a lot of people struggled, because they felt as though I was going to fall very quickly. I think even now, if you ask anybody what was the biggest thing they thought of in 2003 was, who is this girl coming to host the World Cup? That is exactly what the head of sales said. Who is this girl hosting the World Cup? I took it on as a great challenge because no one expected much of me. I was in my bright colored t-shirt, talking about the game I loved, alongside some of the greatest in the game. And we were hosting a World Cup. I mean, wow, it's like a kid in a candy store. You let me loose, and I've never let go. I've never let go.
So a lot of Kass life is about G Sports for girls. A lot. So you were one of the first. You started it in 2006. It's been 15 years now. You're going to host the 15 awards in August. Many congratulations on that. How did the idea first come up? 2006, long time back. I don't think so. Anybody.
It is. Well, listen, let's be honest. When I think about it now in COVID times, what a cool thing to have launched in 2006, before online was even cool, before we even got onto Twitter, right? I was hosting a radio show, a sports show, and I only heard stories of struggle from women in sport. And I felt that having achieved my ultimate dream of becoming a commentator, I needed to give back. And I felt the best way to do it was to tell stories of women's sport. With my husband and his tech law background and my journalism background, it was a no-brainer to do something online. But it was so new that the only thing that was a sure bet was to hop onto Google and find out how to do it, which is what we did. And we built the first website. We've come an incredible full circle this year, where Rake has been busy with developers that have been hired for G Sport by the South African Media Innovation Program to redesign a website that we initially were the first ones to put this really awful green looking border around a website and start typing in and doing stories. And Yash, over the years, it's just become a platform that women in sport can truly rely on to have their brands built. And the secret to the success has been consistency.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've been following G Sports for quite some time now. Um, so what has been your proudest moment with G Sports? You've told a lot of stories. So what has been your
Yeah.
proudest? 15 years. It's a long, long time.
You will know what I'm talking about when I talk about founders mentality and about passion projects and about initiatives that you have great dreams for that to become a commercial success. My proudest thing about G Sport is that we did not let go of it when times got tough, and they got tough a couple of times when we could have thrown in the towel. 2008, 2018, the most recent time. And I'm glad that we kept going because we now see the commercial relevance of G Sport, particularly in COVID times, an online initiative with a thriving online community that bursts at the seams with excitement about the coverage of women's sport. We couldn't have been in a better space. But they often say all you see at the top is success, but at the bottom you see the struggle and everything you go through. That's my proudest moment, is that we were able to just see through those tough times.
So we've talked about what has been the start of G Sport, what has been the proudest moment, but you have been a big supporter of women in sports, talking about them on different forums, attending conferences, doing post-match presentations, doing presentations in general, doing commentary, a lot of things. I want to ask you, what do you think needs to change for women's sports to be better represented and paid?
We need to have exactly what men's sport has. We need a proper commercial structure around women's sport so women can truly make money from sport, that we don't expect them to hold down jobs, play cricket, win medals, come home, win the sports star of the year, but still struggle to put food on the table. So we need to get away from just having the dream for women's sport. Under the dream is work. And I just feel that not enough people are doing enough work consistently. It's when we're under pressure that we try to do something for women's sport. You've got to do it all the time. It's like riding a bicycle. The more you do it, the better you get. And we found that at G Sport. The awards, it's our 15th edition. But when you look back at 2006, the day we launched with 20 women in a room honoring one person. And since then, we've honored 140 odd recipients. It's taken us a long time. And you've got to have your heart in it. You've got to be so sincere and you've got to be committed. And there has to be hundreds of million being put into women's sport before we can start comparing.
Yes, let's move on to what a lot of people talk about, social media. There have been a lot of pros, there have been a lot of cons. You are very active on social media. How do you treat social media?
Social media, there's nothing social about it. And that's the first thing you need to think about. Nothing social about it. It is very serious. Who you are comes across. What you say impacts people. And I find that if you understand what each platform is for, then you don't make a mistake in how you message. The messaging is everything, and there are power in words. So never tweet when you're angry. If you think you know it all, you don't. Put your phone in airplane mode, write out the tweet and delete it. You'll feel better. I always look to build when I'm on social media. So for me, it's worked. We're an online initiative. We don't have big marketing budgets. So the aim is really to use social media to drive women's sport. So I've become a strong women's sport activist on social media. When I feel I've got to bring my voice to professional contracts for women's sport, you'll find me getting quite strong about it. But I stay out of politics and I stay out of things that I don't need to bring my voice to, because I believe that we all are champions in our own right. And if we can all just stick to what we're really good at, the world will be a better place.
For young, uh, for young girls, what would be your advice when they look up to you for mentorship?
My word is always work. I've always worked hard. I still work hard. I get up at 4:30 on a test match day. I sleep at, really crazy hours. I'm not afraid to put in the hard work. So my message to you, particularly if you want to be mentored, is to show that you're doing the work. Because when you show you're doing the work, the person who has something to offer you wants to give you more. But if you're always looking for answers from other people, it means that you don't actually know what you want. And then it goes right back to the purpose of, what do I want to do? So when I was 14, I knew I wanted to be a commentator. I put my marker down, and everything that everybody said didn't matter. And now when I look back, I think, oh, thank goodness I fell in love with that, because hard work is it's the cornerstone to why I'm still in the game 17 years later. And also I know my role. This whole debate around, are you an expert? Aren't you an expert? I'm not an expert, and I'm comfortable with that. I know what my role in the game is. And when people call me an expert, I always clarify and correct them, because when you know what you are, then you can get better at what you are.
The next question was the same, that can you call yourself an expert, or you still consider yourself a student of the game?
Oh, I'm going to be a student of the game until I'm still on the airwaves at 89, my friend. I will always be a student of the game, and I will never be an expert in cricket, because when I got into the game, my main aim was to get the best out of the people I speak to. That when I'm in the commentary box, that the expert next to me is able to flourish. And that will always be what I want to achieve. So even if I can call an LBW, but there's a guy who's sitting next to me, or a girl who's sitting next to me who's done it, be sure that I'm going to allow them to call that. I will sit there, and I often call myself the points officer. I will point to where what needs to happen. I love a good flow of a production. I want the director to be happy. I want the producer to be happy. And at the end of the day, we all need to make sure that we fulfilled our roles. But I do feel that it's a very important conversation, because we have leading women players who have earned their stripes, who deserve to be called experts and should not be questioned in 2020. And I saw the recent comments from Sir Geoffrey Boycott, and I've often said that I take whatever he says with a pinch of salt, because he lives in a different world and I live in a different world, and we see the game differently. And what he says has relevance in his world. But in my world, I can see an all-women commentary team take me through a 5-day test match, and I'll be glued to my television screen, because I know the capability of the women in the world of commentary. So I'm not an expert, but I know some amazing women experts, and I see them doing great things in various events globally.
So how much is this need of constant learning important?
Oh, wow, it's everything. I learn all the time. One of the best ways to learn is to look at yourself and correct yourself. And you don't always have to go and learn what other people are doing. So try to always better what you last done. So my husband often, when I come back from a match, will give me a strong cup of coffee and put my broadcast on and make me watch it. And I hate that. And I'm like, I don't want to watch it. And he's like, you do. Because once you watch it, you realize you've been tapping your pen, or you've been flicking your hair too much, or you're doing something on screen that you want to improve, or you're talking too quickly. So whatever you're doing, how you're presenting yourself, it is about constantly learning and delivering on that vision that you have. So your life is literally a living vision board. How you are, I keep everything simple. What I wear on TV, the words I use, because I know that that's what works for me. Something might work for someone else. Work out what works for you, and then keep improving on that.
So you've basically done everything that's available in presenting or commentating in South Africa. Done a PSL, done World Cups. What's next for Kass Naidoo?
Hopefully some really amazing international assignments. Discussions are underway, and with COVID coming up, they put a couple of things on hold. But for me, I've always felt it's about timing. If everything aligns, it all comes together. My children are happy. I can leave for a month. I'm gone. Wherever I go, I want to make a significant contribution to ensuring that all people who are watching that broadcast feel included. And that's what I loved about Pakistan, is that I was able to allow women to feel comfortable having an opinion about cricket, talking to me on social media about cricket, even though some guys said, well, you should be in the kitchen and you shouldn't be talking cricket and don't come and change things. Well, yeah, you're going to get 1 or 2 comments, but for me, what I will take forward to all the assignments I do is that if you watch and I'm on commentary and you're falling in love with the game, I've done my job.
So let me move to your favorites. Who? So you have done a lot of one-on-one interviews with many sports stars. Which would you rank top three? Your top three favorite conversations?
Oh, these are so hard because everyone has a story to tell, right? Cass Naidoo stands out for me because it's an interview that has so many layers, and if you have a good relationship, you can get good answers. So she always ranks as my number one interview. I love interviewing Mignon du Preez because, as you know, I call her the Madonna of international cricket. There's always something new I learn about Mignon in an interview. There's never the story is told. There's always something new. My third favorite is always an evolving story. It's the wild card that we decide to tell a story about on G Sport, someone I've never heard of, and I get blown away. And it happens literally weekly, where someone from a part of South Africa that nobody talks about has had a story told. So those would be my three.
Who's been your inspiration in the game?
Wow. My initial inspiration has been Donna Simmons in terms of commentating. But I'm inspired by everyone in a production that actually wants to be a team. When we look at the MSL in South Africa, we had people from Dubai, from Delhi, from England, from Australia, and the global aspect of the game for me has been amazing. So that's what I'm inspired by. And I'm also inspired by someone like Isha Gua, who is, if you look at what Isha's done, she has stood up tall in environments that I think some of us haven't even broken through yet. So I'm inspired by many people who have the courage to live their best life.
Let me move on to the rapid fire. I'll give you this or that, and you have to
Scary.
choose one. So,
Okay.
radio or TV?
Radio.
Studio or field?
Field.
Cricket or any other sport?
Cricket, cricket, cricket.
Commentary or presenting?
Commentary.
India or Pakistan, the better crowd?
Oh, don't do this. Why are you doing this? My social media is going to go crazy. India.
Thank you, Kass. It's lovely chatting with you. I guess I'm virtually meeting you after a long time. But it was lovely, absolutely lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Yash. Take care. Bye-bye.